Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is Building Great Sales Teams, and I've got a special guest with us today. Her name is Bri Logue. She's the co-owner of We Buy Sad Houses. You may remember Kai Logue, who I had on the podcast before. Well, this is his wife. She's the kind of genius behind the man. You know what I mean? The wizard behind the green curtain, if you will.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, she's also the owner at Ivory Media Solutions, co-owner of REI BOT, which is a wholesaling CRM, and host of the Women Empowerment Podcast. Bri, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. And so I want to talk a little bit about your podcast first, because when I saw it come out, I was like, it's about time. You know what I mean? Like a woman in entrepreneurial focused podcast. And it was perfect timing because my wife was starting her business and her tutoring service, and you actually had her on.
I did. She was one of my first guests.
Awesome. And so how has that been going for you? And I guess what it has becoming a podcaster done for your business and for your growth and development?
Yeah, so I originally started it. It's funny because I was like, when I started Ivory Media Solutions, one of the huge things was I went to a women's networking group, and that like really drastically changed my business. And I loved connecting with all the other ladies there. A lot of them ended up becoming my clients too, even still to this day, like 6 years later.
Awesome.
But we moved to Texas and I missed all of them so much. And I was like, I don't know, there's not really that many women's groups in San Antonio or in Austin when I was first there. So I was like, how can I still connect with other ladies? So I started a Facebook group, and then I was like, oh, I should do the podcast too. So I pretty much just record my one-to-ones, which is super exciting. And then I said it's very selfish with me too, because I get to ask all the questions, which is the best thing about being a host, right? I can just ask all the hard questions and dive deep onto things that I want to know. But it's really just to help other ladies share their stories too. So it's a platform for women to come on and say, because entrepreneurship is not easy, and it's very, very easy to feel alone. So it's a good platform, and I love it so much. It's so much fun for me. I love talking. It's a lot easier to be the host, by the way, than the guest.
Yeah, because you get to direct the conversation, and honestly, you know, before we used StreamYard, I used Fathom.io to transcribe everything, and what I loved about it is it gave you basically your percentage of talk time, and I had it before I switched to StreamYard. I had it dialed in to where I was 30%, you know, which should be the case when you're the host. You need to let the guests shine, right? And so, speaking of that. Why did you guys move to Texas?
Moved to Texas to get into real estate, actually.
So you guys are very heavy into wholesaling. Your business is centered around that. That's probably where most of y'all's income comes from, right? And so to me, wholesaling is like the gateway drug for real estate. Would I be correct in assuming that?
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's a very easy way. You don't need any money down or anything like that. So it's pretty much just marketing, essentially. Is what I think of being a wholesaler. We're just doing the marketing piece, and we're finding other investors' houses.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. For those that don't know what wholesaling is, can you walk them through kind of what a deal looks like?
Yeah, of course. So we get a house under contract. So we do a lot of skip tracing. We find people who are in distress. Either they're behind on their mortgages, or their house is just beyond repair. It's passed down the family. There's some form of distress in the sellers. So we get them under contract for 70% ARV, which is 70% of the retail value, minus repairs. And then we sell that contract to an investor who wants to do the flip, or either just keep it as a buy and hold, whatever they want to do with the property. So we're just the middlemen. We find the property, and then we sell the property to an investor for a profit. So usually we try to make about 10 to 20K off of each deal, because it is a lot of work. We do a lot of prospecting, and it's a lot of work to find the investors who are looking for the properties too.
Yeah, to me, it's like the door-to-door sales of real estate. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Where you're doing a lot of work on the front end, hoping that you hit, you know?
Yep.
But if you don't, like, you basically work for free. And if you do, though, you get paid for the last week of work, or the last 2 weeks of work, right? And so when people hear that number, 10 to 20, oh my gosh, that's so much, but you forget all the deals that didn't happen along the way. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
got you to
Yeah.
that point. And so one of the episodes I did last week was compensation stage. Actually, it just came out this morning, and we talk about, like the deal amount that you make per deal. And obviously, as you get later into your career, it's easier and easier, and you make more and more deals, right? But that after you put in all that sweat equity for like 10 years, right? And so when you look at products and what you want to sell, wholesaling is one of those that, hey, it's gonna have a long sales cycle. You're gonna go through a lot of no's to get to that yes, and then it's gonna take a substantial amount of reps to get to the point where these guys that are on Instagram and they're making millions of dollars in wholesaling, it's gonna take a long time to get there. You got to put in that sweat equity, like anything else. So I think that's incredibly important. So what was first, the chicken or the egg? Was it Ivory Media, or was it
Ivory Media. So I started Ivory Media 6 years ago. Actually, we're still in New Hampshire. I was in retail before that. So it's funny when you asked me to be on this podcast, and I was like, building great sales teams. I was like, I haven't built sales teams since like I was in retail. So that was like, 6 years ago. I was like, I haven't really built like a sales team for so long. But yeah, I started Ivory Media after they closed all my stores down. So that was a really low point for me. I was like really sad. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then Kai pushed me to start my own thing. So I took a bunch of classes to figure out social media management is where I started with that. And then it's kind of transformed into building websites.
Oh, beautiful. And so is it heavier on the website side or the CRM side? Because I know you have a CRM service too.
Yep. So the CRM stuff, Kai does most of that. He does most of the sales for that stuff. I just do like onboarding for new clients for that portion of that business. But yeah, I do. Ivory Media is like a separate thing. I do that one alone. I just do websites for small businesses.
Beautiful. I love it. And so when did you realize like, hey, I've got something here and I can kind of scale this and make a living from it?
Yeah. So for Ivory Media, we actually did that together for the first year, and it didn't work out for us. So Kai went and started his own marketing agency, and he did that for a while. That was funny. He did marketing for car dealerships for a couple years when we first moved to Texas. Because we're like, oh, we can't work together. We do not want the same things in life for our business. Very, very different goals. So I was like, I want to help small businesses. I don't want to charge that much. I just want to like help people with their social media stuff. And Kai's like, no, you need to like, make a profit right away. And that took me a very long time to be comfortable charging people like enough to be
profitable.
So exactly. So I did that, and then I think then Kai started Me Buy Side Houses, 2 or 3 years ago. And then I came on a year and a half ago is when I came on with him to start doing that. So that's more my full-time thing now. I really like working with him. I do the disposition side, but we really broke everything down. We were like, oh, if we're going to work together again, we need to like have everything set in stone. This is our goal. This is what we're going to do. This is our goal for the company. So when we started doing that, that's really when we work really well together now.
That transitions well into the sales process for We Buy Side Houses, right? So in my mind, it doesn't really matter what the product is or the business is. What's more important is what's the process to get there, right? Because then you've got value that you can give to anybody, And so can you walk us through kind of y'all's process on the We Buy Side Houses side? So, even if somebody's in another business selling water filters or selling solar or whatever the case is, they can kind of see how that aligns with theirs, and maybe they can add some different elements of that into theirs.
Yeah, for sure. So sales process is pretty straightforward. So Kai does all the prospecting. Then it's a 2-step process for him. So he gets them on the phone and he goes over, like all the things that are wrong with their house, like, oh, how much money do you want for it? And then he puts all those notes in our CRM for me. So it goes to the next step of the process. I run all the comps from there. So I go through and make sure what they want for their house is reasonable. And I'll put the numbers together exactly like this is how much you can offer. This is our max level offer for this home. And then he'll go in and call them back, usually about 24 hours later, and give them their offer for their house. And from there, it can be a couple back and forth. Some people want to think about it, and some people, are like, no, you're lowballing me. I do not want to take that. That happens quite a bit. People think, their houses are worth a lot more than they are. I mean, it is a huge investment for them. So I completely understand that point.
Well, they're emotionally attached to it.
Exactly. And we're investors. We pay for, all these people pay for cash for their houses. So they don't want to, they want a value add. They don't want something that's, already completely done and ready to go. Right. So most part, we're getting it at a discount. But from there, we get them to sign the contract. Kai does that part too. And then it goes back to me and I send it to title and get that process rolling. And then what happens after that? And then I start my sales process. So after we send it to title, I get to start looking for investors. So I go and join all the Facebook groups for the area that we're in, and I will start promoting the deal we have there and start building relationships with investors in that area. I also do the same thing that Kai does. I'll do text blasts, say, hey, I've noticed you bought 3 houses in cash in the last year. Are you looking to pick up some more properties in this area? And they'll say yes or no. But for me, it's more, I'm trying to build relationships with these investors too, because at some point we're going to have more houses in that area. So my sales process is a little slower than his.
And that brings up a great point. You guys make 2 sales.
We have to make 2 sales, yeah.
I mean, the sale to buy or put the house into contract, and then the sale to sell the house to the investor, And so y'all actually have 2 sales processes in there, which is really cool. And so the first part of Kai's, do y'all think, or have you guys ever tried? Because my thought would be, you have them on the phone, you've raised the pain level of, okay, you're in this situation and your house has these issues, right? And so you have their emotions in it, you know what I'm saying? And to me, that would be the time to put them under contract, but you can't do that because you've got to do the work on the back end, right? Is there a way to shorten that gap? I mean, it's only 24 hours, which is amazing already, right? But do you guys see that being an issue, or do you see some conversion rate going up if you're able to shorten that gap?
I mean, it could possibly, but at the same time, it is such a big sale, so nobody's expecting to get an offer from a stranger who randomly texts them asking them to buy their home right off the bat. So it's more like building that rapport and building that trust is why he wanted to keep it a 2-step process too, because it's a lot of hand-holding too throughout the entire process. So they want somebody they can trust right from the beginning. So Kai needs to be that authority. We can easily just be like, oh, I'll give you 70% of what Zillow says. Which
that would be a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. Which would just be exactly. It'd be a nightmare because Zillow's never always, it's not really correct very often. So we have to change that a lot. And a lot of people would be like, oh, how did you come up with that number? Some people are like, oh, well, you called me, just give me a number right now. And it's like, no, well, we're not trying to do that. We're not trying to, just give you a random offer. We're trying to make sure we can fulfill and close the deal. Because that's another thing too, because we go through all this stuff. We have to do all of our due diligence. So it's not like it's just like a super easy sale. We have to make sure, we have the numbers correct. We have to make sure that we have to go in and take pictures. We have to go have an inspector kind of do a quick walkthrough for us to make sure there's nothing wrong with the property. Because we don't want to go through, get them under contract and then be like, oh, well, you said the foundation was already done, but we had somebody go out there and now I have to come down, an extra $100,000. That just makes the sale so much harder. So we try to make sure we ask all those things up front. I mean, some people lie and we do have to go back, but usually we so I know that's part of Kai's process too. At the end, he goes, oh, so this is the offer, if everything you told me was correct about the house, and he'll go back through and list all of the problems. So he'll kind of bring them back into that state too. Like, oh, you told me this, this, and this is why we came up with this number. So he'll really walk people through. This is exactly how we came up with that. But I don't know. It's possible we could do that, but I don't know if it'd really be super helpful.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why you have the option period too, right? Is a lot of times they don't know what's wrong with the house, until it's actually inspected. And then you've got the option period to drop the contract at that point. No, that makes a ton of sense. So whenever you're dealing with the investor side of things, is it a situation where you create bidding wars, or is it those deep relationships you go to first and give them the opportunity and everybody knows the numbers that you're supposed to be coming in at, that in what you gave early on and what you're expecting to make from it, so everybody respects that? Or is there some back and forth in terms of negotiating?
There's some back and forth. People will also often negotiate, but I'll tell them straight up, like, oh, this is where we really need to be at. And then if somebody really lowballs me, I'll just move on to the next person. And if I keep getting lowball offers, I'll go back to Kai and be like, hey, this is what these investors are telling me. It's also hard because we do it virtually all over the country. So sometimes I run these comps and I don't know the areas, and it could just be, that one street isn't very great, which we've actually are running into at the moment. Once we have them under contract, everybody's like, oh, it's actually in the hood. And it's like, oh, well, I wouldn't have known that. So a lot of these investors are like, yeah, the numbers have to be down because it's a lot more risk for me. But yeah, sometimes we do bidding wars. If we have like an amazing deal, I will go to my like top 3 people in that area and be like, hey, this is what we have. And if somebody comes back with another number, I'll be like, hey, this person came back at this. Do you want to beat it? The first person to put, $5,000 to title gets the deal. Do you want to beat it or not? He hasn't put his money down yet. So
very cool. So how have you incorporated VAs into your business, and what are some of the benefits you've seen in working with VAs?
Yeah, I love working with VAs. So I'll start with Ivory Media. I have a VA who helps me with all of my social postings and stuff like that. So he goes through and will create the posts for me, and I'll go through and edit them and make sure they're in my clients' voices, and he'll help me with the graphics and things like that. So that's like drastically changed that business for me. With the social media marketing side. The website side, I do everything myself still. I probably should get a VA to help me with that, but I only do like 1 or 2 projects a month, so it's pretty easy for me to handle. It's not bad at all. Right.
Yeah, and it seems like, and I may be speaking out of turn here, but it seems like you probably enjoy that the most, is the website side.
Yeah, and that's just the fun thing for me. Like, we don't really need to do that. It's just like, I just want to keep that business alive. And for a long time, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep this business up or just like shut it down, because I'm not like making a ton of money off it. But it's just something I like to do anyway. So it's like, it's like a business hobby. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And then for We Buy Side Houses, we have VAs that pull lists for us. So they do all the back end work. They pull all of our lists. They do all of our skip tracing for us. They put everything into the CRM. We tried to do VAs for salespeople. They have not worked out for us. So right now we just have them all doing all the admin work.
Yeah, I know Kai and I have talked about a couple of different sales programs and things that he's got ideas on how to build out, but just haven't been able to execute on anything just yet, And so, and it is tough, when you look at the cultural differences, the dialect differences, from what I understand, and this is just, I've never seen this executed yet, but there's like the South African VAs are where you want to go when it comes to sales, because that accent, people love it, they eat it up, you know what I mean? And so if you can find some VAs out of South Africa, then you're in good shape.
Nice.
From what I understand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we've tried to do regular salespeople here too, and just in the US, and we do commission only, but it's just, it can take a long time to get a deal. Like, you really have to build up your pipeline. So sometimes it takes like, obviously, the last 30 to 60 days, your pipeline is what you're closing now. And even for us, our sales process is very long. So if we do commission only, say it takes you 30 days to actually get a deal, that deal's not closing for another 30 days. So it could be essentially 60 days without a paycheck. Most of the time it's 90, because it takes people usually about 60 days to actually get their first deal. So that's a tough one too, to kind of explain to people, like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to keep working at this every single day and not see return for 90 days.
So for any solar salespeople listening that are knocking doors, here's your in. You know what I mean? You bird dog the deal for Kai and Bri, and then you're making some good commission there. And I've got a script for you that me and Kai put together for it as well. So honestly, any door-to-door salespeople, reach out to me, shoot me a message, and you could probably bird dog some deals for these guys and make some extra commission. And they deal with the same thing, especially in solar. It's like they've got to wait 30 to 60 days to actually get paid on those deals. So they're already used to that kind of timeline and sales cycle. So that's something that me and Kai have been playing around with, but haven't really executed on yet. So I haven't really even put it out there. So who knows? We may get a few messages from this. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah, anything that looks, a little frumpy, that somebody needs a house that needs some love, or even the grass that's way too long, send them our way.
Yeah. Well, and it is an objection that comes up all the time. It's like, hey, we're about to move. We can't really afford this house anymore, or whatever the case is. That language that starts happening when somebody's in distress, and they need a quick solution. And, anyways, it may be a referral income opportunity for somebody that is already doing door to door. So that could be huge. So for you guys, one of the things that I've noticed is like y'all put on these events, right? And it may just be like a networking mixer, or in y'all's case, y'all put on our real estate syndicate event here recently that I was able to come and speak at. Thank you again for that opportunity. And I have noticed, because I'm part of masterminds, and I've gone to a lot of events, but some of the most well-run events have been put together by you guys, whether it was a casual one or a really organized one. So where did that come from? And is it just a natural thing for you to be able to do that? Or like, where did that skill set come from?
So it's funny, actually. So when I first started my social media marketing business, my first client was an event planner. So when I do social media marketing, it's a lot of research on how like these people run their events, because I have to, come up with these like tips and tricks for all their, social media marketing stuff. And then she send me all of her things. So I like to think that Michelle with the Anchor Group really helped me become a good event planner. And then
Fantastic.
I'm always a details person too. So for me, it's like I need things to run smoothly. And, like for our other event, Kai's like invited so many speakers, which was really amazing. But, he's not the logistics person. So like when we're like finally talking about it, and I was like, hey, you got like, 10 speakers and we're only there for 5 hours. Like, how are you going to make this work? So yeah, I'm the one who gets to do all the logistics, and all that stuff isn't super fun for me. The events I love networking. It's been like such a huge help in my business and just making friends. And I feel like, how else do you make friends as an adult? Networking events are the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. How else do you make friends as an entrepreneur is a more important question. You know what I mean? Because nobody understands and nobody has that context that you have. And then as soon as you go to one of these events, like, oh, I found all my people. This is perfect. So, and even going to y'all's real estate events, even though I'm not like heavy in real estate or anything, like I do, like I met Marco, who's also in Apex, and I know me and him are going to do something together. I'm going to have him on the show for sure, because he does social media sales, you know what I mean? Or high ticket closing is what we call it. But that I haven't had anybody on the show that is specific to that, so just connections happen like that. What about for you guys? Do you guys see a ROI, like dollars and cents, on these events, or is it more long-term relationship building?
More long-term relationship building. So we actually broke even on the syndicate event, the big event we did with all the speakers,
which is a huge success.
It's a huge success. Yeah, that actually was our goal. And I feel like if we did set a goal to make money, we probably would have made money. But our whole goal the whole time was just to break even. And that is exactly what we did. Same with our networking events. We usually have one sponsor at every event. So last time we had Searchers Capital. That's the big one. Yeah, for the small event, the networking event we did I think Searchers Capital. Yeah, so Alicia was there. She didn't have her table set up or anything like she originally was going to. But yeah, so we always try to have one sponsor at every event too, just somebody we can spotlight. And then Kai also gives them a spot in his Facebook group to go live every Friday.
Very cool. Very cool. So with everything that you guys have going on right now, and then some of the partnerships that are available out there, what's next for y'all, or what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm just excited to grow our company. That's like the biggest thing right now. I would love to hire like a good sales team, and really, because this year was all about like building out our processes, our sales processes, and really dialing in to the process to make sure everything is going smoothly. Because last year we definitely were not super organized. And that's one of the reasons why we actually built the CRM the way we did, because it's very organized, exactly how we do our business. And that's one of the reasons why we sell to other wholesalers too, because that's just like, here's our step-by-step sales process. It's all laid out in here for you. But yeah, just keep growing our, we buy set houses. I'd love to do a deal a week is like my main goal. Right now we're at like 1 or 2 deals a month. But I'd love to scale it up to be a deal a week, and then hire a couple more VAs to help me, with the actual back end stuff. I'd love to hire a transaction coordinator, be like our next biggest thing. Somebody actually talks to the title company. Kind of that whole process is a lot too, because you have to kind of keep going back and forth with the title company. So like, oh, the buyer needs this stuff. Since it's a wholesale deal, they don't make as much money. So I have to be the middleman too. So I'm like, oh, cool. The seller needs to get this to title. So, Kai needs to call the seller, and the buyer needs this and this to title. So I have to call the buyer. So honestly, that's like that would be like our biggest thing right now, is to get somebody to help me with all that stuff.
It sounds like a project coordinator type position, project management, somebody that's got a good history in that. And then, you heard it also, they need salespeople. I don't know if anybody listening to this podcast knows how to sell things, but if you want to get a piece of the wholesale industry, I would definitely reach out to them as well on that. Awesome. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, they go to brilogue.com is the best place for that. And then they can probably find your socials on there and shoot you a message.
Exactly. 100%. Just my link tree. It's got everything on there.
Awesome. And so last question, this one gets a little deep. What does legacy mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Ooh, that's a good one. Legacy. That's a hard one too, actually. You're right. It's a very deep one. So we do not have kids. I feel like when everybody thinks legacy, they think of what they're going to leave behind for their kids.
Right.
Which maybe one day, but as of right now, that's not on the cards for me.
A lot of them have been like twofold answers. You've got the, and I don't mean to say standard to take anything away from it, but it is part of it. A lot of them have the kids answer. They want their kids to be good people. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very common one, but a lot of people stretch outside of that, and it's more about impact too as well. So kind of goes
I think
both
definitely.
ways. Yeah.
A big thing for me is I always want to start a nonprofit, and that was actually a goal for me last year to start, and that just did not happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year either, but I think so. Our vision is to open a nonprofit for stray dogs, and also to have kids in like group homes come and help too. So we kind of wanted to merge both our worlds. I love animals, and dogs always been a big part of my life. And then Kai was in group homes when he was a kid. So we thought we would open a really cool like dog ranch type style thing, where we have like kids from group homes come out and help out on the weekends to show good work ethic and kind of learn an entrepreneurial type stuff along the way. So that's really what I want to do. That's the big thing that I want to leave behind.
So it sounds like you need somebody with like 10 or 20 acres of land, right?
Yes.
And so there's another shout out to whoever's got some land and wants to get involved in a nonprofit so we can make it happen this year. There's all kinds of tax incentives for your land. And I would imagine they only need like 2 acres maybe, you know what I'm saying, to put that together. So FYI, if you want that tax incentive, Bri's got it for you. No, I love it, Bri. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise on wholesaling, websites, CRMs, all that good stuff. Definitely a lot of value on the show. So I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's get building.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Be sure to execute on everything that you just heard, and let's get building. Before we sign off, we'd like to invite you to join our Brickyard community. Head on over to jointhebrickyard.com. Again, that's jointhebrickyard.com, or click the link in the description to find out more.